We're joined today by actor Mark Torgl, better known as Melvin Junko from the Toxic Avenger. Mark, how's it going today?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, sure.
Well, first, I got to say it's an honor speaking with you. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. There's a lot going on this year, as it's the 40-year anniversary of the Toxic Avenger. So,
Well, I want to get to that. First of all, Mark, I wanted to ask you a bit about, how you got into the business and how you wound up becoming an actor.
it was kind of a fluke, to tell you the truth. I was going to NYU Film School. I did some acting in high school and a little bit in some acting classes for filmmaking. But I was in New York, and summer was coming, and Troma put a notice on our job board that said, "Come and work on a real film. You won't get paid, but you'll have a good experience." So I went down there and interviewed with Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hers, and they were making not the Toxic Avenger. It was a film called The First Turn On. And they were like, "Oh, great. You go to NYU. What do you want to do on this film?" I was like, "Well, I'd kind of like to be the script supervisor so I could work with the director." And Lloyd was like, "Great. You can be the script supervisor. What else do you want to do?" And I was like, well, he was going to let me do anything I wanted. I should have just said, "Can I direct it?" But as we were shooting this film and I was the script supervisor, there was a pretty important role for an actor and he didn't show up. The actor didn't show up, which is not unusual for Troma because, they don't really pay anybody. So we were waiting around for this actor, and finally Lloyd said, "Mark, you get in there and do it. This guy's not showing up. Just be nerdy and outrageous." And so I stepped in and did this part, Dwayne, which was a crazy, just socially awkward character in this movie. And I did crazy things like, like rub mashed potatoes through my hair and just all sorts of stupid stuff. But they liked what I did so much in that movie that the next year when they were making Toxic Avenger, Lloyd called me and he said, "Listen, we've been interviewing like a lot of kids that do this main part that turns into the monster. And what we really wanted was what you did last year on The First Turn On. So if you want the job, it's yours. If you want the part, it's yours." And so I took the part and the rest is history. It's gone on, to be this cult extravagant movie that I never thought it would. And 40 years later, it's as strong as ever.
I always read that in The First Turn On, was it supposed to be Madonna that was acting opposite of you?
Madonna tried out for the part, and she really hadn't made it big yet, and they turned her down. She auditioned for them, and they turned her down. She came in like a camping outfit, and was really trying hard. It would have been historic because that would have been the character that was my girlfriend. But unfortunately, they didn't pick her. They picked somebody. They picked a woman named Georgia Harrell, who was also excellent in the role. But she wasn't Madonna.
And some of the casual fans might not realize that Troma kind of started with those, I guess, sex comedies, you would call them, before they made the choice to kind of add the horror element to it with the Toxic Avenger and really kind of spawned an entire new genre.
Yeah, it's true. That's their specialty back then was the teenage sex comedies. They did another one called Squeeze Play, and of course, the First Turn On, and a couple others, I believe. But then, when they made Toxic Avenger, it was really so unique because it's not just a horror film; it's like a horror comedy, and Lloyd always has some social comment he wants to make. and this was against, toxic waste, basically. And they just went from there and got crazier and crazier with the horror theme. Until this day, they're still doing it.
Yeah, you mentioned this is the 40th anniversary of the Toxic Avenger. Are you surprised that that film has become what it has over the years? I mean, with the cartoons and the toys and the sequels, that really kind of became like Troma's Mickey Mouse in a way.
Yeah, it really is surprising, and I never thought that this would last like this. When it opened in New York at I think one theater and like the seedy part of Times Square, I think I don't know if it even played for a week. And we just thought, oh well, that's it, it's dead. And but then it started playing as a midnight movie at the Bleecker Street Cinema in Greenwich Village, like every Saturday night. And it got this word of mouth following. And that's what started, the whole trend of the cult film. I mean, there were other cult films like Rocky Horror, but this was, really what got it going was these midnight showings. I even made a personal appearance there one Saturday night, and I tried some stand-up comedy, which was awful, but the crowd just loved me anyway, and it was a pretty cool feeling. But yeah, it's 40 years later. I'm still capitalizing off of it. I'm doing a lot of cameos in films from filmmakers that grew up with the Toxic Avenger, and now they're filmmakers. They listened to Lloyd. He made the book. Everything I know about filmmaking, I learned from the Toxic Avenger. And I think he made another one called Make Your Own Damn Movie. And
Sure.
that's what a lot of these, young filmmakers are doing that are also Troma fans. And they would love to have me do a cameo for the most part. And I've done, in the last 3 or 4 years, up until this year, something like 10 films. They're usually pretty small, but a couple of them are bigger. There's one called The Macabre, which came out recently, that I have a pretty large part in. Eric Mathis, the director, is a huge Toxic Avenger fan and a huge horror fan, and he's making another film coming up soon that I'm also going to have a part in. It's called Inferno. So it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of conventions, and that's also a nice way to meet the fans and keep this whole brand going. It's exciting.
Yeah, that is awesome. And of course, so many people, as you mentioned, grew up with the film and then wound up making their own films. And, the Toxic Avenger kind of showed that was possible. And there was some serious makeup involved with that film. I mean, you went through a lot of stuff that, nowadays you probably would just do it on a computer. But, I mean, you guys were doing everything there in-house.
Oh, yeah. It was all, just regular special makeup. We had bladders, like when my skin was popping up and bubbling, there were like PAs like underneath the tub, like blowing through hoses that made my skin bubble up like that. And it was pretty crazy. Jennifer Aspinall was the makeup person that created a lot of that. And she was new to it too. But she did a wonderful job, and she went on to have a really successful career. I think she worked with Saturday Night Live and just a bunch of films. It was fun, and yeah, I did go through a lot. They were really good at putting the makeup on, but they didn't get it off of me very well. And I remember after we had wrapped that final scene, where I jumped out of the vat of toxic chemicals, we were trying desperately to get the makeup off of me, and it just wouldn't come off. So finally, there was a YMCA down the street, and they asked if I could go there and try and shower it off, and they said sure. And so I went down there with my skin peeling off. I was in the shower, and the boys' swim team finished up what they were doing, and they came into the shower and saw this naked man with his skin falling off his face. And I think it traumatized them forever.
Yeah, well, that character, Melvin Junko, I guess meant to be maybe a typical 80s movie nerd, but the character really kind of became like a hero to a lot of the fans, it seems.
Oh, definitely. I get so many young fans that come up and say that part meant so much to me because I could relate to it. And then you turned into a superhero, and it gave me like a new life to be able to think that, a nerdy character like that could become a hero. And I hear that a lot, especially from younger fans. And it's really interesting that my character had that effect on them, which I never, even thought that could be a possibility, but it was.
That is awesome. And I wanted to ask you, I know after Toxic Avenger, it seems like you took a pretty long break from, I don't know if it was from the business or just being on camera. Where did you go after the movie?
Well, like I said, I was going to film school, NYU film school, and I moved to Los Angeles after graduating, and started working in behind the camera, as an editor in television and film. I did go back a few years later for Toxic Avenger 4.
Sure.
They actually wanted me for Toxic Avenger 2 and 3. And I looked at the script. I was like, it's not really very good. I was like, can you pay me this time? And they're like, well, that's not the Troma way. And so I passed on 2 and 3, but then I did 4 pretty much for the fun of it. At a flight to New York and a hotel room. But Lloyd also wrote in his book, one of the biggest mistakes he ever made was not paying Mark Torgl the $50 he asked for Toxic Avenger 2. So it is what it is. And after 4, I stayed pretty much in my editing world and post-production. But the way I started doing acting again was I made my own movie, Toxic Tutu, in 2019, and it's the almost true story of whatever became of Mark Torgl, Melvin the Mop Boy from the Toxic Avenger. And we spent, my partner from NYU and I spent like 2 or 3 years making this movie. And it's streaming now. It's on Amazon Prime and some other venues. So that sort of started it all up again. And I started accepting, these other cameos and other roles, just by getting my name out there. People figured out how to get a hold of me. And it's been a real adventure and a real nice ride. I'm leaving my editing world soon. I'm still doing some television editing, but I want to concentrate solely on acting and doing the conventions, and that's going to happen soon. So,
oh, that is awesome news. Yeah, the Toxic Tutu, I did see that, and it was great to, for the fans to see all the cast back together, and it's got to be a great feeling for you, as you mentioned, getting back into the limelight here on the convention scene and finding out, so many fans have been following you and wondering where you are, and now they got a chance to meet you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think because it's the 40-year anniversary of Toxic Avenger, I already have 4 conventions coming up in the year. So it will probably even mushroom into more just because people are so excited about the 40-year anniversary. I've got one coming up soon in Canada, the Calgary Horror Con. That's in June, and then a couple in Texas and one in Ohio. So it's all coming together here. It's going to be a good year.
Excellent. Well, Mark, I've heard rumors of for years now, Toxic Avenger Part 5, possibly from Troma, and then also we've heard the Hollywood remake of the Toxic Avenger might be a thing. Do you think you might show up in either of those if they come to fruition?
Well, the Hollywood version is actually done.
Okay.
It's something that was made probably a year ago. Peter Dinklage plays Toxie.
Wow.
They had a screening of it at a convention in Texas, which I couldn't go to because I was at another convention myself. This was about 3 months ago, and I don't know what's going on with that now. And they didn't invite me to do a cameo, which I thought was a mistake. And I really, tried hard. Lloyd tried hard, and they went down. They were doing their own thing, and I don't think anybody. I think Lloyd has a cameo in it, but nobody else from the original movie. But like I said, I don't know what's going on with that and why it hasn't been released yet. Maybe they're just waiting for Halloween or something.
Well, you mentioned being back here, and you've done a lot of work, as you mentioned, in just the last 5 years or so here. Is there anything else maybe that's coming up or something we should be watching out for?
Well, I'm shooting. I'm in a movie that's shooting in March, and that's called Infernal. And it's this director Eric Mathis, who I think is really talented, wrote it and is directing it. And I'm playing an old geezer that owns a record store, and there's a monstrous element to it that's from hell, sort of. So I'm looking forward to that. There's also a movie that I shot that it will be released soon. It's called Special Needs Revolt, and Adrian Esposito was the director of that, and he has a lot of underground actors that the horror world fans would know about these people, and that should be pretty special too. Okay. My part was pretty small, but it was a lot of fun. It was shot in upstate New York, and I think he's getting very close to finishing it up in post-production. Another film that is out, the Once and Future Smash, was a horror mockumentary, and I have a part playing myself, actually, and that was a lot of fun, and that is also streaming. So it's just so much is going on that it's just created a whole new world for me, and I couldn't be happier about all that.
Excellent. Mark, again, it's been an honor speaking with you. I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's great to see you back in action here. And I'm looking forward to maybe speaking with you at a convention or something here in Minnesota.
Yeah, get me in a Minnesota convention.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
All right, Dustin, thank you.
And again, that was the one and only Mark Torgl, Melvin Junko, the Toxic Avenger. Keep an eye out for Mark at a convention near you.